So to those of you that don't know me, I'm Melanie Ferguson, the Director of HR here at Pine Tree, otherwise known as, sometimes I call myself the Chaos Coordinator, sometimes that's my name. But I'm glad you're all here today and good to see you. Let's see. Okay, so basically, this is a new training that TEA has put out, so the Texas Education Agency put this training out after this last legislative session that just ended in July. So a lot of this is information that it's very common sense, okay? The majority of it is. There's a few new little stipulations on reporting of misconduct that's changed a little bit. So that's covered in this training. So basically every employee in the district has to complete this training. So I sent this out. A lot of the campuses are doing this training kind of on their own, but it's choice that I figured it'd be easier just to get all of you together. We could do it, mark you off, and be done. So bear with me. I'm going to try my hardest to get through this in the very most 30 minutes, okay? Okay, so basically, this new training is on misconduct and the reporting of misconduct. So on employee misconduct, basically, is what this is. Let me see here. Let me play this and see. Yeah, it's not going to play. Oh, it's not going to play. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Okay, so basically what the law says, understanding abuse, misconduct, and reporting channels. So who you need to report any suspicions through. This unit will provide legislative overview of recent changes, like I said, on how abuse and misconduct are defined under Texas law. While we will also cover specific reporting channels like the Department of Family Protective Services and administrative reporting in more detail. It is important to understand the legal foundation first, so why we're having to report these things. So as all of you know, there are different types of abuse. Those can range from physical abuse through substance abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, all of these types of abuse when referred to students. So what does that actually look like? I'm going to go over just a few of these so we kind of know, examples of what these are. There's physical abuse. So this would include like physical injury that causes substantial harm to a child or even the genuine threat of such harm. It doesn't stop there though. If someone fails to make a reasonable effort to prevent another person from causing physical harm to a child, that is also considered abuse. Okay, so even if you aren't involved in it, but you do not stop the abuse, then that is abuse on you as what you're committing abuse as well. Sexual abuse includes any sexual conduct that harms a child mentally, emotionally, or physical, their welfare. This also includes serious criminal offenses like continuous sexual abuse of a child, indecency with the child, aggravated sexual assault. Okay. There's neglect. Neglect happens when someone responsible for a child's care does something or fails to do something that shows a clear disregard for what could happen as a result. In other words, they ignore the risk and the child ends up harmed or put in immediate danger, then that is considered neglect. There's different kinds of neglect. There's neglectful supervision if you're supervising a child. There's physical neglect, not providing basic needs like their food or clothing. Medical neglect, of course, neglect on providing medical assistance, abandonment, leaving a child without care, refusal to accept parental responsibility, not taking responsibility for a child who's under your care. Neglect isn't always about what someone does, it's often about what they don't do. So a lot of this training is on being responsible, especially as educators, to know that to try and know the signs of all these types of abuses if you were to see it on the campuses, okay? Let's see. This one's talking about failure to act, kind of what I said a while ago. Failure to report abuse or make a reasonable effort to prevent physical injury is also considered abuse. There's trafficking and exploitation. This could be sexual exploitation, forcing a child into prostitution, filming or photography of a child in an obscene way. Sometimes the harm from abuse is emotional or psychological, and it can be just as serious. And then emotional and mental injuries. So abuse isn't always physical. There's a lot of kids that have emotional injury, emotional abuse of children. That is a big form of abuse. When drugs or controlled substances are involved, that is substance abuse. That's pretty much straightforward. The key takeaway is abuse isn't just what someone does, it's also about what they fail to do. So you can kind of see the pattern here. That's the importance of this, is knowing when to say something. Okay. Okay, so Senate Bill 571. So this was a new bill that was just passed in the legislature. It passed in this last legislative session. It introduced several key updates to Texas law relating to child abuse and school staff misconduct. The definition of child abuse under the Texas Family Code now includes conduct that harms a student's mental, emotional, or physical welfare, including conduct that constitutes an improper relationship between an educator and a student under Texas Penal Code 21.12. This makes it clear that inappropriate relationships between school staff and students are legally considered abuse. The laws also classify which law enforcement agencies that need to be reported to. So these include the DPS, so the Department of Public Safety, a municipal police department, a county sheriff's office, a county constable's office, any of those agencies. It does not include a school district police officer. So when we're reporting these things, we have to go to one of the state agencies or federal agency to report these. Okay, Texas Educators Code of Conduct. So you're going to see a lot of the examples in this. It talks about teachers, educators, things like that. However, we're all in the education field, so that's why we're all included in this definition for teacher educators. So Texas educators follow the Educators Code of Ethics. That is in Texas Administrative Code 19, chapters 247 and 249, which lay out what's expected and what's not okay when working with students. This code outlines professional standards expected of all certified educators in Texas. These standards help protect students. So we're going to talk about just a few of these. Boundary violations and inappropriate relationships. This is a big one. Failing to maintain appropriate boundaries, inappropriate communications, and improper relationships with the student. Showing favoritism towards certain students in a way that affects fairness or the student's well-being. Treatment of a student in a way that negatively affects their learning or mental health. Communication and technology misuse. Violating school or district communication policies, including improper use of messaging apps or social media. This is a big one. Social media. I'm just going out on a limb here, but we all, have encountered things on social media that we don't agree with, or, that's inappropriate. You just remember that Texas educators are held to a higher standard, okay, of behavior because we are dealing with students and kids every day. So just remember that, especially if you have employed at Pine Tree ISD in your profile on social media, any of that, please just remember that you are a reflection of the district, and that kids on the campus, especially junior high and high school, they know you guys. And believe me, they are on that social media looking for things that they should not be looking for, okay? So just keep that in mind. Safety and substance and criminal violations. So these are just talking about neglect and abuse, physical harm, making alcohol or drug available to a student, being under the influence of alcohol or drugs on school property or during school activities, absolute no-no. possession of a weapon on school property or during school activities or committing a crime. And then ethical and professional misconduct, engaging in fraudulent or deceptive practices of the school system or SBEC. SBEC is the State Board of Education certification. So that is where the agency that teachers and aides get their certifications through as well. Okay. There's a little history on abuse and Texas abuse prevention time frame. Okay, so in 2000, it's about 2009, the Jenna's Law was passed. It was a major turning point, laid the foundation on how schools approach abuse prevention, training, and reporting. Then, let's see, in 2011, the law was updated to include other forms of maltreatment and prevention strategies. This also made training of child abuse mandatory for all new employees and encouraged annual training for all school staff. So this has been around a long time. School personnel training in 2013. There's a certain training, basically schedule and calendar that we have to go by at school districts, and this training is now being added to that. It's basically that same year in 14-15, the Rise to the Challenge curriculum was developed to support prevention efforts of abuse. 2015 was more based on the child sex trafficking team was developed. 2019, new requirements for training on human trafficking in school districts in training as well. Then the Do Not Hire Registry was put into play. That was in 2020, so just about 5 years ago. So if any educator does anything that is against the code of ethics, the educator's code of ethics, any crime that has to do with students, children, not reporting, neglect, any of those things, their name goes into this Do Not Hire Registry. So basically, when I'm hiring a new employee, I have to run everybody, not only through a background check, but through this Do Not Hire Registry now. And that is basically because reports of employee misconduct are just skyrocketing every year, more and more. Then, just recently, this Senate Bill 571 was passed. It expanded the Do Not Hire Registry to cover broader ranges of misconduct, including inappropriate communications. This is a big one this year. That seems like the legislature this year, they really are focused on inappropriate communications with students by educators, okay? So even if an educator is, let's say, 21 years old and the student is 19, but they're still in school, that is considered, that's an inappropriate communication or relationship, okay? So you have to be very aware of those things. Let's go to next. Okay, so recognizing misconduct. Understanding and recognizing potential warning signs and risk indicators, that's essential to keeping students safe. When we notice something that does not feel right, it is important to speak up. Although, don't be hypersensitive on all these things that I've said today, but you guys are smart and use common sense on. If you see something that you feel like is maybe out of line or maybe inappropriate, it is your responsibility to report these things. As a school staff member, you have a professional and ethical duty to protect students from harm or inappropriate behavior when it comes from colleagues, volunteers, or others in the school environment. So this not only goes out, we're here to protect our students, not only while they're here specifically, but with volunteers coming into our school system, any others in our school environment, we're responsible for the students, for any interaction with those people as well. This responsibility is bigger than any personal discomfort you might feel about reporting a colleague's behavior. So there's a few things here. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. But the warning signs in students, there's certain signs that students could be expressing if something is going on, some kind of abuse or anything at home or anywhere. Sudden changes in their friends, increase or decrease to their appetites, weight loss or weight gain, dressing differently, sudden interest in makeup or appearance, visual signs if they've got bruising, and then with any kind of vague explanations on that, if they're withdrawing from their friends, following or messaging school staff on social media, that should never happen. Having multitude or secretive social media accounts, possessing expensive items. Okay, those are kind of signs that, those are signs that there could be something going on. These risk indicators in adults. So these behaviors may signal some boundary violations, could, but not in all cases. Unnecessary or inappropriate contact. Now this is not talking about, just hugging a student out in the open area, because I know a lot of the younger grades, like those little kids love hugs, and Mr. G, those little kids love hugs, don't they? And so that is not what this is referring to. It's more of if it's secretive or in, an area, don't ever catch yourself in an area where there might be a door closed or something and it's just you and a student or two, even at like the high school, I know that you probably, you clean rooms and different areas and there's students around. Just make sure that you're aware that, try to make sure that you're in a visible area where a door's open, things like that. Okay, just to protect yourselves. Let's see. Any showing of favoritism, again, it could be on a teacher's, an educator's side doing that. Having personal conversations with students about topics that should not be talked about. Those should not happen. And again, using private messaging or social media, talking back and forth. We have implemented different communications this year with students, between students and staff, teachers and everything. So especially, it's hard because it's sports. Coaches, they need to text kids, hey, or a kid texts the coach, I need to ride to practice. Like, that happens a lot because a lot of kids don't have someone at home to take them. So on those types of things, we've implemented different, like the Sports U app, different things like that has to have more than one adult communicate on the actual app with the student, different things like that. Providing counseling that is not part of the staff member's role. Watch yourself doing that. Let's see. Ignoring school policies that limit contact with students outside of school hours or without the parents' permission. Giving students any kind of gifts. Asking students, of course, to keep secret about any communication, and creating emotional dependency between the student and the adult. Those are signs that there's things that don't need to be happening. Some risk, community risk indicators. Let's see, hesitation to believe students when they speak up, limited access to mental health or social services, or closed-knit communities where personal relationships may discourage reporting. Signs in students with cognitive disabilities. Those are, it's harder with a student with disabilities, cognitive disabilities, but I think that our staff is trained very well, especially in the special ed department, on picking up on any signs of any kind of abuse or anything there. Okay. Creating a safe environment is a shared responsibility. We talked about this. Okay, I do have chocolate if anybody wants it, if y'all are falling asleep. So, friending, commenting, or following students on their social media accounts, is this appropriate behavior?
No.
No, it is not. Okay, that is inappropriate behavior. Making jokes or having conversations with students that include sexual or suggestive content. Is that
Not
appropriate? Absolutely not. Meeting or tutoring a student alone behind closed doors. That's kind of what I was going to there on the closed door thing.
Mm,
No,
not appropriate.
not appropriate. Here's what communicating with students through the school approved platforms. Absolutely, that is the kind of behavior we need. Giving praises to students in a respectful and inclusive way. So that's saying, not showing favoritism, things like that. As following school policies, reporting concerns. Allowing a student to sit on lap during class or school events. Okay, this was a little touchy, but TDA says this is inappropriate behavior. So, I feel like our staff knows when, especially with this is littles, this is those kindergartners and those pre-Kers that, want hugs and want that. I say for you guys, never, engage in any of this activity, just to keep yourself safe. Yeah, there we go. Unnecessary physical touch, brushing a stick up. Okay. I think y'all got the picture on that. Okay. Behavioral patterns of misconduct. Misconduct by school employees is a serious breach of trust. So who are the violators? This is where they're pointing out about teachers and educators that are having these relationships. I'm going to show y'all just a couple here, if it comes up. These were on the news. Former Judson ISD teacher received 60-year sentence for sexually abusing first grade student. So now you see why we have to go through these trainings. Because there are, crazy people out there that this stuff is actually happening. So, although we know in our school district that this is not ever allowed, that's why we're doing this. An Arlington principal and school staffers were arrested in a child grooming case. Former DeSoto ISD substitute teacher arrested for having an improper relationship with students. 3 North Texas educators arrested in ongoing child sexual abuse investigation. So as you see, there's another substitute teacher case. The cases are out there. Thank goodness we have employees that are smart enough to know that these things are not acceptable. This is just talking about early signs of relationships with students and staff. We talked about those earlier. It's the same. They're going over the same stuff here. Okay, so here's a couple cases. These are basically examples of where, teachers, these actually happen. A high school physical ed teacher, I'm just going to go over this one with you. High school PE teacher attempted to remove a freshman student from class after the student threw a ball that accidentally hit the teacher. Believing the student was being disruptive, the teacher escalated the situation by physically chasing the student, knocking them down, and placing hands around the student's neck, causing bodily injury. The incident was captured on video and supported by photo evidence and witness testimony. So these are the situations where I don't want to be on the news, on 6 o'clock news. I don't want anyone at Pine Tree ISD to be on the 6 o'clock news. Okay, so that is why we're going over this as well. These are more cases of physical force. Losing control can end a career. Teachers' actions, and especially in today's time, I feel like a lot of our administrators feel like we're being analyzed through a microscope these days. Educators are, and anyone that works in a school district. So just be, on your toes and make good conscious decisions, because all of you are smart adults that can make smart decisions. Let's see. All of these basically their certifications were taken away. They were put on the do not hire list. They will never work at a school district again, of course, in all these cases. This is another one with physical restraint. That's the art teacher. We're almost done, y'all. I promise. This is just a chart showing the cases. As you can see, this is as of June the 1st of 2025. So there's almost 4,000 individuals in this do not hire registry now that they worked at school districts and they can no longer ever work at another school district because of something that they made a decision about and made a poor decision. I don't want any of you on that do not hire registry. So as school employees, we're often the first line of defense to protect these students. And when you suspect abuse, neglect, or misconduct, the law's clear. We have to protect students. So what has changed? Under the Texas law now that's in effect, the time frame for reporting suspected abuse or misconduct has been shortened. So previously, school professionals had up to 48 hours to make a report. Now that window has closed down to 24 hours. We have 24 hours is all, even if it's on a weekend, that something is reported that possible misconduct, okay? So, in those instances, it is important, if you do ever encounter a situation that you think is important enough to bring forward, just make sure you do it in a timely manner. Okay, there are mandatory reporting when you suspect abuse. There is a Texas Abuse hotline. Those posters are also posted on all of your campuses. They should be for child abuse hotline. When making a report, you can do it on the phone or online, and that number is on those posters. The more information you provide, the better equipped the Department of Family and Protective Services has to go off of. Legal protection, you reporting the information, as long as it's not reported with a malice, basically, as long as you're not doing it just intentionally to hurt someone, you have immunity in either civil or criminal cases, okay? There it just says it is your personal duty. It is your personal duty. And actually on abuse cases, the person that suspects the abuse has to be the one reporting it. It can't be your supervisor. It can't be me. It can't be Mr. Cluxton. You're responsible for reporting it yourself. And then, so now the person that does report it, your information is shared with TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency, and SBEC, which is the State Board of Education and Certification on that. Okay, this is just going over again when reporting it. If you suspect something, you could call 911 immediately. For non-emergencies, the DFPS, which is that Department of Family and Protective Services, this information is on the posters that are on campus. And if you suspect any human trafficking, report it both to the DFPS and law enforcement. Okay. This is just saying, do not report the investigation or situation yourself before reporting, okay? It is not your responsibility to dig into all the details and try to investigate the situation yourself. It is your responsibility to report it, okay? Leave investigations to trained professional law enforcement. When in doubt, report. Okay. This is more of the same. It has to be reported within 48 hours again. Superintendent. This is more for superintendent purposes. Superintendent and principals have a legal duty to report certain types of educator misconduct. So the 24 hours that I was just telling you about is more for like child abuse and neglect. If we suspect an educator has an inappropriate relationship or communications with the student, we have 48 hours to report that, okay? From the time that we are notified of any such situation. Failure to report this, so here's where this got our attention. Failure to report this isn't just a policy violation, it is a state jail felony. So if I suspect or someone reports an inappropriate communication or relationship to myself or Mr. Clemson, if we do not report that, we could see state jail felony charges, up to 2 years, and also a fine. I don't want to be that person. So let's see. Okay, this is just going through what to expect on a report from DFS. I'm not going to read all of this, but you will give your information. You will basically do minimal, you'll give them minimal information. The student's name, if it's for neglect or abuse, any of that stuff. And they will assign a number to this report, and you will get that they'll send you an email with the number on it. At the end, once they have closed out the whole report, you will get a notice in your email that says that report was closed out, so that they completely closed out the case. You will not be told, what the outcome was or anything like that, but just that it was handled. Parent notification. Parents have to be notified in cases where there's any suspecting of their employee misconduct or anything like that involving a student. Okay. This is just going through training requirements. So to help students safe, Texas law requires all school staff to receive training in recognizing and responding to child maltreatment. So school staff, basically you guys, have to know how to recognize risk factors for sexual abuse. If we went through those earlier. Spot warning signs that a child may be a victim. Follow internal procedures to report. Use strategies to reduce a child's risk of abuse or exploitation. Connect students, staff, and families with community resources. Superintendent has even further requirements, and our school board has their requirements. Okay, this is going through the campus signage. We went through this just a few minutes ago. There's abuse hotlines on there. They should be in English, Spanish, all of that. Kind of looks like this. You've probably seen them on campuses. We also have a student health advisory committee. Every district has this that meets, I think they meet quarterly. And they discuss ways of preventing all of this, all the sexual abuse or maltreatment of students, and put into place procedures also to protect students. Yeah, we gotta look into that one. Okay, this is the failure to report abuse. Can have serious consequences. Most importantly, it could mean a child remains in harm. This civil liability, this was also effective September 1st. It removes governmental immunity for school districts and professional employees in cases involving sexual misconduct. So the prior law, school district employees basically had immunity from civil cases if we had an employee here that was had this kind of behavior. But now the school district can, let's see. Yeah, so now if the school employee engaged in sexual misconduct, or if another employee fails to take appropriate action to prevent it or report it, both of the individual and the district can be held for civil liability now. And they could be up to $500,000 in fines for not reporting. This is just what could happen again if consequences for misconduct. We talked about the do not hire list. We talked about criminal penalties that could happen if not reported or if you're partaking in this kind of behavior. This just goes through how TEA investigates. So basically, if a report is made on employee misconduct, we have to make it a report to TEA, Texas Education Agency. They will take over from that point on and do an investigation. So this kind of just takes you through what they do in their investigation. And they will come up with the recommended solution and refer to litigation if necessary. So this just goes through what I just talked about, the different steps in the decision making for TEA in their investigation. So litigation, if a case is referred to legal action, TEA attorney will review the case and may file with the State Office of Administrative Hearings. It can be, let's see, the final decision for educator certification holders is made by SBEC at the public meeting, and final decision for non-certified employees is made by the Commissioner of Education or the Commissioner's designee. So even though you're a non-certified employee, this still pertains to you, okay, in investigations. Okay, this is just talking about we are a statewide community of educators and professionals in law enforcement. So just remember as we close to trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it's worth reporting, okay, because you all are smart. Follow the law. Reporting is not just a moral obligation, it's a legal one. We have to report these things. And your voice matters. Speaking up can change a child's life. And that is it.